welcome to Playwright, a podcast about creating and sharing new ways to play. And you're hearing my voice this week to start us off. I am one of your co-hosts, Ryan Quintal. You can call me Q.
I'm Ryan Hamann. You can call me H.
And we have a special guest with us this week who is not going by the name Ryan, which is lucky for them.
We cleared up a lot of confusion.
Yeah. I would describe our guest as very talented and honestly impossibly busy Kate Sanchez.
Hi. Hi, guys. Thank you for having me.
It's so awesome.
I don't know about the
us.
Talent, but I can attest to the busy.
Yeah, Kate, I mean, you are the founder and editor-in-chief of But Why Tho? Could you give us a little, the 1, 2, 3, the elevator pitch?
Yeah, But Why Tho Geek Community is a site founded to elevate marginalized voices in the pop culture space. We cover everything from video games and comic books to movies, television, anime, and manga, books, literally everything from interviews, reviews, and recaps to thoughtful analysis pieces on the media we consume. We're here to push towards a more inclusive and diverse industry.
I love it. I came across the site probably early last year or sometime I think early in last year, and I was lucky enough was it on Christmas Day? You guys were doing a little community get together in the Discord, right?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, we've done quite a few, but I do know last year for Christmas we watched a Muppet Christmas Carol, and then we did like a giant Lord of the Rings marathon stream as well, which are probably our two big things.
That's wild. So it's so cool. If you haven't had a chance, go check out But Why Tho. It's butwhythopodcast.com. But we're here today to come up with some video game ideas, which apparently you're brimming with, yeah?
One in particular that I've been like wanting for a while, and I was like, what can I think of? Well, what have I tweeted?
This is your chance. We get all the ideas, of course, available. Please, if you're inspired by these ideas, go make a great game based off of them. Don't make a lousy game, only make a great game based on them. But yeah, and if you get really litigious, Kate, you can always say I said it first. So that's the show where you can claim that.
This is the podcast equivalent of mailing it to yourself. So I think we've got you covered.
So, gosh, we usually have a set order. I think last time I had gone first.
You did. Typically, though, when we have a guest on, we like to kind of present the option. Are you excited to get right out the gate and pitch something yourself? Or would you rather kind of hang back and let one of us do it first? Like, how are you most comfortable in approaching this?
I can get right out the gate. I think that's fine with me.
Basically, just to explain the format of the show for people who are listening in and for you potentially, is that you have as much time or as little time as you wish to pitch the game, and then we spend a collective 10 minutes kind of workshopping it, whatever comes to mind. And then at the end of that 10 minutes, we have kind of a hard cutoff where we have to kind of close it down where it stands and give it a name. Of course, it can always be revisited by the community in the comments or whatever, but as far as it's out of our hands at that point. So anyways, take it away whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so hold back your name.
Awesome. So my pitch is a fighting game based on the animations from Powerhouse Studios. I cover a lot of the Western animation on this site, and I explicitly cover a lot of the Powerhouse stuff, all the Powerhouse stuff that comes up. If you're not familiar, Powerhouse Studios is an animation studio based in Austin, Texas, that works to produce Netflix originals most of the times. They're the animation studio behind Castlevania, Blood of Zeus, and Sesmanos, and then also the new He-Man show, and I think they worked a little bit on a Transformer show as well. But for me, particularly, I am just such a fan of, one, the art style, and that they don't know how to make an ugly character. Like, just look up Castlevania anime, or Sesmanos, or Blood of Zeus. Everybody is hot. Everybody has fantastic eyelashes. And that is also a hallmark of a fighting game, that everybody is attractive for the most part.
Yeah.
Strong eyelash game across the genre.
Yeah, really. But what I really like and what I've really appreciated about Powerhouse Animation is that they've really been pushing for strides of creating an adult animation space that isn't just comedy here in the US, which is something that I greatly appreciate. And they do phenomenal action sequences. And if you look at something like their property Ses Manos, each one of the characters is not only a master of a different type of kung fu, a different type of martial art, that also informs their personality, and it's a series that is highly stylized in the grindhouse exploitation space. It's essentially an anime that takes place in Mexico, that fuses Chinese kung fu movies and blaxploitation and mexploitation and makes goodness. Castlevania, self-explanatory, sexy vampires, plus Trevor Belmont and Saifa Belnades. So magic and blade whips and swords and those things. And then Blood of Zeus are gods. So I personally, it makes no sense why they would fight each other, but neither did Jump Force. And while I know Jump Force wasn't a good game, I am all for bringing a studio or properties or a studio stable all into one place, if you will, to just duke it out. And so have like a fight system where you can choose like, there's only 3 properties, so like maybe you just choose 2 people and you can alternate between them and that kind of stuff.
Right, sounds great. Let's go ahead and put 10 minutes on the clock and see where we can get with this.
I think this is so cool. I am halfway through, I'm way behind season 2 of Castlevania on Netflix. And I haven't checked out Blood of Zeus yet, and it sounds like I've got another one and Ses Manos to add to the list. I'm thinking about all of. First of all, we all agree that Arc System Works could crush this?
Yes,
it feels tailor-made for them. But I some of what you're talking about, Kate, I'm thinking, what a wonderful campaign mode. This is almost like a adult anime. Super Smash Brothers or something.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
We recently had, what was it called? Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle. That was more of a crossover between fighting game characters. I don't know if they pulled in any kind of cross media, but it was mostly kind of centered around the Blaze Blue fighting game system, and then pulled in characters from Guilty Gear and some of the other games from, I don't know if it's all within Arc System Works realm or whether it's various companies coming together. But I do love, these kind of cross collaboration fighting games in particular. And you brought Jump Force into this, which actually kind of leads on to a question that I had about this. You mentioned that there was obviously immense power differentials between these characters if you're fighting like literal gods against just regular humans, even if they are trained demon hunters. That can still be quite a tall order. In Jump Force, did they have to account for this same type of thing as well? Are the Dragon Ball characters, for instance, like so much more powerful that they had to kind of like story-wise limit their power in some way, or do the kind of One Piece, Naruto characters really kind of keep up?
I've never played the story. I just play the arcade pieces, so I'm not too sure, but like I kind of picture it also like as a Marvel versus Capcom thing too.
Yeah,
or, like those power differentials are super, super different, but somehow it works. But I honestly don't play campaigns in fighters.
Really? Totally fair enough.
That's fun because I only play the campaigns.
I just wonder if there's like industry wisdom around like, do we completely hand wave it away and just pretend that all of these people are, fighting each other in good faith and are just, having a decent enough, round at it? Or I
feel like you have to at a certain point. Like you just have to.
Injustice Gods Among Us really bent over backwards to be like, no, everybody got suits made of kryptonite, and really tried to say this is how we fit Superman into the rest of these fools, because obviously he would just be completely in a different. He's
kind of the standout, and so the fact that they kind of set him up as the antagonist of at least the second game, I don't remember if he was in good standing in the first game or not, but it feels like it would be appropriate, narratively speaking anyways, that the other heroes would be prepared to fight their biggest threat.
What I think could be cool about this is, some of what you were mentioning about, and I love the style of Powerhouse in it, that the battles can sometimes feel like they're kind of taking place in a fighting game-esque arena, but I'm thinking about some of those early scenes in season 1 of Castlevania where they're out in the streets and you have groups of people fighting demons and, debris falling, things are on fire. I would love to see one of these type of games, and maybe Jump Force is better at this, but with a much larger combat field. So kind of Marvel versus Capcom, but what if you 4-6x'd the entire combat space and really used an environment to your advantage?
That would be really amazing. And I think I think using an environment to the advantage would also really play well into the different characters too, because like if there is that power differential, like maybe allowing the Sesmanos characters, which are just humans, one of them is kind of supernatural, but not really. If they can pull parts of the environment to maybe even it out a little bit, that would be interesting. And also they would be more apt to do that. Or like even just the humans in general, because like Alucard isn't really throwing around like parts of the environment, but like Trevor totally is. I think that would be really, really interesting. I'm also just a personal fan of interactive environments and fighters in general. I love them so much.
I wonder if any fighting game has ever, I can't think of any off the top of my head, any that have set their fights in kind of like crowded areas. I mean, obviously you see a lot of like busy marketplace backgrounds and Street Fighter and King of Fighters and stuff like that, but that's all very, in the background, non-interactive. You had my personal favorite, the Snoop Dogg fighting stage in Tekken Tag Tournament 2, which he was rapping in the background on the back of a giant golden throne. But I've never seen a fighting game that takes place like in an actual crowd where you'd have to kind of weave through the people and maybe, and I don't know if this becomes an unpleasant thing to think about, but to think about like some characters, might want to try to protect the people. Some characters might want to hurt the people, and maybe the gods receive, greater boons the more people are kind of left in the arena while they're trying to flee, while other characters might be trying to crush them with buildings or something because, the people are, I guess, effectively, worshipers or something like that. In a similar way, if we're talking about kind of destructible environments, tearing down temples and monuments could weaken God's power in some way as well.
That would be amazing. Actually, that's a really, really good concept because that's also something that could play, not spoiling Castlevania because I won't say which character does it, but there is a part in the most recent season of Castlevania where a character essentially sends what is like kind of a skyscraper-y thing, like Tower of Mordor type thing, or like Eye of Sauron type thing, and he has to pull out like a power thing from it to then like be able to take on like some of the supernatural things around him. And so like I feel like that would be really interesting, and I feel like it would definitely play well to a campaign style too.
You're of course referring to the character Jeff. Everyone knows the mighty Jeff.
Castlevania Jeff.
I will add into this mix, if we didn't want to go the Marvel Capcom 2D route. Speaking of a group that recently made a lot of sexy people appear on a screen, I can imagine the Hades developer. Is that Devolver? Am I getting my...
No, that is
Supergiant.
Supergiant. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot that. Supergiant. If there was a Hades-esque format where I'm doing runs and I'm encountering the gods as bosses, but I can play as all the characters from the entire kind of universe of Powerhouse Animation, I think that could be fun too.
Yeah, or even something kind of arcadey, like a Power Stone style 3D brawler in a way. I like games where the odds shift, like through the course of a battle, where the odds are heavily stacked against certain types of characters at the beginning and then might, go heavily in their favor at the end. So it's always kind of a cat and mouse between the various characters. So, if it was kind of a gods lose their power, the more monuments of theirs are destroyed, then really like the gods are these big kind of overpowered beings. The beginning, the humans are trying to scramble around, avoid them, do as much kind of collateral damage as possible. And then, the gods are trying to get their kills in quickly. I always love the characters that can really kind of turn it up when they're in the either kind of late game. I know a lot of Smash Bros characters like Sephiroth and Lucario have these kind of like the higher percentage damage they have, the more kind of enhancements to their character they have, or characters like Phoenix Wright in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, where you have kind of tasks to perform. And if you're able to accomplish them, then throughout the battle, you grow more and more powerful.
All of these shows that are heavily combat focused, they play with the concepts of death and healing. Like, is someone actually dead, or do they have is there pieces of the environment, or can you create a tug of war like battle for a healing fountain or a special magical object, and take what would be maybe in another fighting game, hey, every character has their signature set of powers, externalize those, put them in the stage, and then make it a tug of war to really capture those things a little bit more kind of Smash Bros style.
I guess I'm also like thinking in my head too, like I feel like Smash Bros. So are you talking about like just the way Smash Bros does like stats and powers, or how it looks as well?
Well, I'm thinking about like sometimes in a Smash Brothers stage, there'll be an object that appears that is just such a tempting thing that suddenly the fight shifts from I'm trying to get my opponent to maybe a tug of war or a race to capture that.
Oh, okay.
Like a smash ball or a hammer.
I am not a Nintendo person.
Not a problem.
No, you're a real person. You don't have...
But that helps with the context. I think that would actually be really cool, because I think if you do it and you're thinking about like designing also like each level around like different properties too, like there are objects and items of power in each of these series that could be easily used for that. So from a storytelling perspective, I think that would actually really work.
We are at our 10 minutes, and so I'm afraid we're going to have to cut it off there and give it a name.
I don't know.
Let's see, what would be... So would you remind me of the name of the studio?
Powerhouse Animation.
Powerhouse. Man, this kind of writes itself already. Where do we kind of take that to make it like the big crossover fighter?
I'm not good with names. I used all of my creative juices for naming things when I named But Why Tho?
Is there Castle Manos? Something crazy?
Powerhouse, Power Struggle.
PowerCross.
Ooh.
I like that. That's got good like workout equipment energy to it as well.
I'm just happy for maybe the first good Castlevania game in about 10 years.
Very cool. PowerCross. I think that works.
You're not wrong.
That's right. And there was a Castlevania fighting game on the N64, but I don't think it was very good, if I remember correctly.
Boy.
Anyways, that series has had a long and storied history. Cool. Let's move on to our next video game pitch. This one will be coming from me. What I want to do is kind of a 3D photo scavenger hunt where you're kind of tasked with finding various kind of shapes. Start with like letters of the alphabet and then evolve into, different types of like, I don't know, letters in other languages or runic symbols or whatever, but basically just shapes, not like concrete things like flowers and snails and stuff, because that's too easy. But basically you would have to find those shapes in the environment, and you would do that by, kind of finding intersecting lines and interestingly photographing the corner or street lights or whatever it is that, and from whatever angle you want, that gives you the desired shape. So basically it's kind of a free form in a lot of ways, and the game would kind of automatically judge your photographs against the prompt that you were given and determine how good of a job you did in kind of divining this shape in this kind of open world city environment. So I'm going to go ahead and start the clock there.
So for context, I'm imagining I'm getting some sort of prompt, and that prompt might be a triangle at like rotated 15 degrees or something like that. And now am I kind of in a diegetic photo mode? Like, am I in the universe with a camera taking pictures, or am I more like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, click the sticks, and I've got really full external to the character photo mode stuff going on?
I think diegetic makes the most sense to me. Maybe we do allow a little bit more kind of climbing mobility than most people would have, but I like the limitations of, being kind of feet on the ground. Maybe we can think about, unlocking drones and stuff later in the game, but having those, working against the limitations, I think presents an interesting challenge.
That's kind of how, because Hitman doesn't have like a full photo mode, but like Hitman 3, you can take pictures with camera.
He's got his little camera phone.
Yes, I took a lot of mirror selfies with my Agent 47. But I think that actually adds like a really unique take, and I do like the challenge. I'm all for like small challenges that can amount to like larger challenges. So I'm down with that personally.
Yeah, I recently played, there was a game called Alba, a wildlife adventure. I played it on iPad through the Apple Arcade, although I know it's available for other platforms as well, at least on Switch and PC. But anyways, you play as this little girl who lives on this island, and you're interested in the wildlife of the island, and you go on these various kind of quests to help people in town and to rebuild wildlife shelters and stuff like that. Like, pretty nice, not offensive type stuff. And while you're doing it, you're also tasked with kind of filling up your, I don't know, call it a photo journal, but it's almost like bird watching. You're taking photos of the various, animals and birds that you see on the island, and the camera would kind of automatically identify them when you take a picture of them. But as much fun as that was, and as difficult as it can be sometimes to take a photograph of a bird in the air in motion, it did feel like it didn't, I got some really bad photographs from time to time. The animal is completely facing away from the camera. Maybe only its ear was in frame. And it would still count because, the computer is still scanning for the shape, and, it is within the frame, so it's going to count. And that's just kind of the way that games that with photographic scavenger hunts that rely on kind of like, is the flagged object in the frame? If so, then they get the points. In this case, there would be no kind of flagged objects. Everything would be completely kind of agnostic, but it would be looking for kind of shapes and lines and everything. And so you'd have to think about the form of the photo more than even what's in the photo in the first place.
That's interesting. So like, I'm also thinking like, how can we push this to be even more puzzle too? Because I'm so outside of like I guess like MMOs and like anything I play co-op, like I really dig puzzles. So I'm just thinking how we can make this even more puzzle based, and also like how are people going to traverse to take them?
I like the idea of I don't know if you're imagining H in your mind that like let's use a tree as an example for the triangle, because I think it's easier for people to realize, or like a house rooftop or something, where I take a picture here. Is it I'm getting the full frame and it's just kind of detecting the triangle within it? Or is it a little bit more like after I take the photo, it sort of mats out everything else and I'm left with the triangle or the square, rectangle, whatever, that is filled with the texture of the photo I'm taking? Because I think to what you just said, Kate, about making it a little bit more puzzly, I remember early grades math class and playing with tanagrams. Do you guys remember tanagrams?
Those
No.
The blocks of different shapes that you have to fit together to make like swans and stuff like that?
Yeah. It's just like, little trapezoids, and it's definitely Googleable. I don't even know if they're called tanagrams or tangram, whatever. It's basically just little flat shapes that you can make a windmill, you can make a cat, that sort of stuff. I think it would be so cool to, through a photo mode, if you're moving around and actually physically moving like an Umurangi generation sort of thing, taking the photos and then building up this sort of geometric texture library, and then you could like create quilts with it or patterns and all these things, maybe decorate a house or something.
I would like if, if the game is kind of starting off with the letters and it would give you the letters, perhaps even in a random order, and you would have to find something that looks like the letter L. And so you would find a street light and photograph it upside down. And maybe you'd need to find something that looks like an O. So you'd find a building with a circular window, or, however creative you want to get with it. And then at the end of the kind of chain of quests, then it would show you your photos, but arranged in whatever message it wanted to give you, the sweet little I love you message from whoever put out the request in the first place or whatever it is. Or maybe it's a Chicago because that's the city that you were in, whatever it is. But something where you don't necessarily know the end goal that you're working towards. You're just kind of doing little steps along the way as well and letting it be a surprise at the end.
Yeah, that would be really nice. I'd also think too, like, if there were any like restrictions, I guess. So like, are we thinking about things only in nature, or would it also be like man-made pieces, like walking through totally. An urban area and like maybe having to find like a traditional like natural shape in an urban environment? I don't know if that makes sense, but like you have to find something, I don't know how to explain it. I just thought it may be something difficult of like if you're walking in a place that is completely devoid of like natural life, like a downtown, and then you have to like find elements, because like you're gonna get a completely different like shapes and letters in that area, and some things will be easier and some things will be harder based on like what type of setting you're in.
I'm going to need to go to the Target parking lot to get those red spheres that they've got those concrete.
So I think maybe like building it out, like when for the requests to be like taken into account those two things. And then like if you've taken it in a location where it's like deemed harder to find that through an algorithm that I suppose that I'm going to make up in my mind would work that way, like you would get extra like.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's almost like a reverse version of the kind of hidden challenges in The Witness, where you're in this kind of mostly natural environment and you'd have to find, straight lines that connect in weird ways. And you would do that by kind of like positioning yourself in such a way that objects in the foreground and the distant background would line up, and you can kind of trace your line, your shape through the various objects.
Yeah, that's actually cool. And, I don't want to drain this thing's soul, but when we started talking about taking a picture of a lamppost upside down or something, it really does make me think that, who better than Miles Morales or Peter Parker to be taking some of these photos, because you could really, configure your web, scale a building, hang upside down in very unusual places and get these sort of abstract angles. But I do wonder if you want your character, if they're physically traversing the space, to have some kind of base jumpy, bungee jumpy sort of ability to capture these photos.
Yeah, I feel like coming up with like a traversal mechanic would be important. And then I also think that it would be interesting to have like photos and movement. So like even if it's just like your character gets on like a train car or like something like that, and they're watching out the window and you have to spot these things as the train is moving.
That's a good point.
May also be good.
Yeah. I think, maybe more kind of interesting and diverse movement mechanics could come later in the game. I do want at least the opening portions of the game to feel fairly pedestrian, because I want to kind of invoke the Tony Hawk effect, where you leave the game and then you start seeing the world around you in a different way. But anyways, we are at our 10 minutes. So let's cut that one off and let's give it a name.
You could just call it photo mode.
Photo mode. I'm wondering if we've ever done that before.
This is a
fair amount of photography-based games. I think it's just an interest between the two of us. Let's see if we've ever done we've done one in Playwright 86 called Everything But the Photo Mode. So I think if we were to just call it photo mode, this could almost act as kind of like a sequel in a way.
It's the prequel or the sequel?
That's right.
Okay, we made everything else.
I think that does kind of suit, though. All right, Q, do you want to wrap this episode up with your pitch for the day?
Yeah, big coincidence here. We started with karate. We're going to end with some karate.
All right.
I unabashedly have enjoyed Cobra Kai on Netflix. I was recommended to it from a friend back when it was a YouTube show. And I thought the acting was, I almost walked out of the quote theater. I was like, are you kidding me? I can't watch another second of this. And then somewhere by episode 6, it all clicked. And I was like, okay, maybe I actually love this show. There's a Cobra Kai game that they just released, but I think it's like a brawler game. And I think that is the wrong genre for Cobra Kai. What I'd like to pitch this week is maybe a Telltale-esque style game, or perhaps a Watch Dogs Legion style game where I am going around and recruiting people to join my maybe player-created karate dojo. And I can recruit people by many, many means. Maybe I'm romancing them. Maybe I'm doing favors and tasks for them. Maybe I'm defeating them in battle. But you're trying to make the biggest badass karate dojo in all the valley.
All right. Starting the clock there. We should get Netflix to sponsor.
Yes. So I just want to lead with, I love Cobra Kai. I thought I was going to hate it, but I love it so much.
It has no right to be good.
It doesn't. And Johnny just deserves a hug. He's a giant himbo and I love him. I think that one of the first thing that you have to do is we have to have a logo designer, because we need something as good as Eagle Fang Karate. I don't know if you're caught up on season 3.
Yes, I am.
Yes,
we need Eagle Fang.
Yes, so we need people to like be able to make their own animal-centered karate dojo logo.
Well, I think you're right. And in the same way, the recent Tony Hawk had all those decals that like transported you back to the 90s.
Yeah.
This could be like 80s karate mascot sort of vibe going on.
Yes. Yeah, I think that has to be like step number 1. So like choose your logo, choose your colors.
I think an aspect of karate and other kind of competitive combat sports like fencing and stuff like that a lot of games miss out on is that it's not really like fighting when you're in the middle of it. I mean, there are fists flying at you and such, but that's more kind of like the aesthetic level. Like, I feel like it's almost better represented. And this is one of the reasons I really like the original Karate Kid movie, is that they really kind of treated it almost like a more kind of strategic, like a chess match in a way. And so it'd be neat if the actual fighting could feel almost like turn-based in a way, or almost like a strategy puzzle, rather than like a, button mashing kind of brawler type of experience. And I was thinking of the recent John Wick game that Mike Bithel's studio put out, and I don't know if there are interesting ways to kind of like work kind of a turn-based combat into the other mechanics as well, the kind of relationship building, and maybe if we can find some way to kind of overall kind of envelop this entire experience in a unified systemic package that can mechanically kind of work for everything in a way.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna like suggest. That would be really interesting. Like maybe turn-based. My brain went dating sim mechanic, but like obviously not dating your students. No to that. But like the same type of like, yes. But like you would also feel like an important part would also being able to pick your students, or at least like set guidelines of what students would enter, and then like through like, I guess like real-time strategy, you could like maybe go into, I don't say like interviews, but like they present their behavior at school or something, and you have to decide whether or not you'll keep them and keep training them, and then that impacts your karate dojo score overall. That might be interesting as well.
I like that. So you get into maybe, so we design our logo, let's design our gis, hang up some signage, choose the studio location. Are we going to go more strip mall or more, Miyagi-Do? And then setting some principles for your students, and then trying to find students that align with those principles and that sort of thing. In terms of the actual combat, I'm almost in a headspace of, I love the idea of the romance and the dating sim mechanics, because I think that these are all valid. That is the way some people get recruited, is that they build a relationship with someone at the school. And another layer, karate being about self-defense. I almost imagine, maybe because I've got Jedi Fallen Order brain going on from playing it recently, but imagine really only parry-based combat system where you're just kind of blocking, deflecting, blocking, and it's all timing, and it feels kind of like a dance in the way that a great karate choreographed fight looks like.
I really like games that incorporate both real-time and turn-based elements, like Paper Mario, where it's essentially a turn-based battler, but you do get the opportunity to play almost little kind of timing mini games depending on the weapon that you're using and depending on what you're defending against, that can either increase or mitigate the damage. So yeah, I think there's ways to kind of have both cakes and eat them.
I think it would be important, if we are designing our own dojo, then we are opening up a new karate school in the Valley, and then Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai are all sort of competing schools. I'm imagining the very fun but maybe culturally insensitive reference of Crackdown from Microsoft, in the way that the city was carved into all of those gangs. Don't go to the Cobra Kai side of town. You're really at risk over there.
Maybe there is almost a kind of, characters are almost like Harry Potter houses, kind of like the evil characters go to certain, like you have to, if you are in charge of the evil dojo, in a way, you have to kind of work against the nature of the students and get them to, stay out of trouble and that kind of thing. I can't even imagine being a headmaster of Slytherin and having to rein in those little terrors.
Hey, as a Slytherin, I take offense to that.
I'm probably one myself.
I think I'm a Hufflepuff.
But I think that's actually a good mechanic. And so here's my thing. The way Microsoft executed that was very problematic. But I do think that, like, when if we're looking at, like, you have to create a thriving dojo in a certain area, you do have to take like the makeup of that area, economic standards of that area, and all of that has to, because if you even think of it like close to like a management sim in that way, like each area of town is going to give you a different kid, right? Like, and that's just how it happens. Like, I'm personally from a very, very bad part of town in San Antonio. So I have been in, like, I was in fights when I was younger, right? Yeah. Like, and so, like, if you get somebody like me in your dojo, you have to reteach somebody how to fight and when to fight, right? Versus, like, you go into like a bougie neighborhood and you have, like, if you even just think about the kids from Karate Kid, or from Cobra Kai in general, like, what's his name? The one, Dimitri?
Hawk? Dimitri,
No, not Hawk. Dimitri, the annoying one.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't want to get hit, and he doesn't want to do the training because he's never
note from his
had
doctor
to.
For no extensive leg.
Yes. And, like, I do think that, like, if you take that into account, like, that's going to impact what types of students you have. And then I think once you hit, like, a certain threshold of, like, notoriety, then you, like, expand your students, and students can come from across the city.
You're kicking. First of all, you destroyed me, because now I realize Cobra Kai is basically just Harry Potter, and I thought I was too old for that crap, but here I am. But yeah, that makes me think in terms of the students at the dojo, because there are some students that are a little bit more senior, tenured, ones that the teacher seems to, I don't know, hold a little closer or train a little bit differently. And it makes me think it's almost like the reverse nemesis system from, Shadow of Mordor, where you are choosing which students are kind of your top lieutenants, and there are people that you're always trying to train to backfill them. And really, every time you promote a student, you are sending a message to the rest of the students about what your values are as, the sensei. So I think you could do really interesting social mechanics of, depending on how you treat the students, who you promote and who you recruit, that cascades out, and you see if you're reinforcing or eroding the values you originally set out.
And kind of the trickle-down effects that you would feel if one of those leaders that you're really counting on is injured in a fight and has to sit out for a couple months, or if they are recruited by another dojo. That does add some kind of interesting relationship dynamics to this management sim as well.
Yeah, do you want to recruit one of the best students from another dojo, even if it then causes a rift in your own dojo and eventually means that some students are going to break? Yeah, you could do a lot of persona level crap with this, I think.
Interesting. Well, we are at the 10-minute mark again. These things, they tend to fly right by. So let's see if we can find a good Netflix approved name for this game.
Dojo Sim?
Dojo Sim is good. I was going to say All Valley.
Oh, that's cool.
Because that's the name of the championship.
I think yours is cooler, the All Valley.
the All Valley is cool.
A Dojo Tycoon adventure.
Dojo Tycoon. That's just what it should be. Dojo Tycoon.
That's not bad. I like it. Dojo Tycoon. All right. We did not do a community pitch today because there are 3 of us on the show, and that rounds out our show. But normal weeks, we like to hear from our community. And if you would like to submit a pitch of your own, you can do so by going to playwrightcast.com/pitch. You can email us, playwrightcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet your game idea at us, at playwrightcast. And we'll read it, discuss it, workshop it, break it down, and come out with something entirely different on the other side in a future show.
Spoiler alert, it'll probably be a Tycoon. Special thank you to PROTODOME for the use of our theme song, Hello World, off the album Blue Noise. And when you're listening to things, why not go check out the Cane and Wrench podcast, The Sausage Factory, Sound of Play, and, hey, But Why Tho? Kate, before you give us a plug and do your due diligence, 3 minutes on Hitman. Can we talk about the new Hitman? I just got into Hitman. Ryan's a huge Hitman fan. Tell us what you feel about Hitman 3.
Oh my God, I love it so much. I really enjoy Hitman, and honestly, what I've been telling people is, while it is the conclusion to the World of Assassinations trilogy, it is actually a really good game to come into for the series because it does the work of telling you and setting up the story. Like, there's like the campaign story is literally called, oh my God, it's like Up Until This Point or something like that, like something movie, but like this. The story so far, that's what it is. The story so far, and it catches you up to speed. And it's just really good. I really, really enjoyed it. I also am encouraging a lot of people who aren't stealth game players to try this game out, mainly because I feel like IO has done a phenomenal job of creating different pathways to success that both reward stealth players without necessarily punishing players like myself who maybe aren't so stealthy and throw apples at everybody. And it's just like a good time. Too, I think my favorite thing is the murder mystery, because there's like a whole I think it's like a mini game within the game. I love it. I can't speak it too much.
This is the Knives Out kind of level, yeah?
Yes. I wrote an entire article where I just called Agent 47 Benoit Blanc 47 for the entirety of it. So
H has been trying to get me. I mean, not like actively, but you've been loving Hitman for so long. I'm proud to report to you. This is my progress report, sir. I just finished what is right after Sapienza.
It would be Marrakesh.
So I know I have Hitman 3. I don't know why I wanted to just go from the beginning, but I have caught the bug. So I'm on board the Hitman train, and I'm looking forward to getting to these Hitman 3 levels.
That's great. Have you been doing just kind of one run at a time and moving on, or have you been kind of spending some time rinsing each of the levels?
I've been doing one at a time because I wanted to get to the 3 stuff and have a level of proficiency there before I did it. But yeah, after you finish the level and it's like, well, now you can enter from the garden at Sapiens, and I'm like, well, that sounds pretty good. So I'm torn at pushing forward.
Very cool. Well, I'll be interested to hear your funny stories, because everyone has them. You know, it's like there are very few games that really create storytelling moments better than Hitman. You know, I always talked about Just Cause 2. Every time I would play that, I would walk away with incredible stories to tell people of just the most daft and insane things that had happened to me in that world. And I feel like Hitman is kind of the same way, you know? It's even the best laid plans like always end up having a little bit more improvisation than you think they probably should. And there's things go wrong, but in the most delightful ways. And it always ends up being really memorable. Just a great kind of meeting of obviously very heavily like written and planned moments on IO's side, kind of married with more mechanically driven, spontaneous moments on the player's side. And yeah, it's always surprising, always a lot of fun. So I'm glad you're getting into it. And I'm glad we have a new Hitman game after these years. It's great.
Oh, yeah. So, I was going to say, I will say a quick tip. Don't be afraid to save, and reload up until the point that things went haywire. I did that so much.
If you're an Apple person, I am a soda can person for sure. I can't. The amount of destruction from soda cans in my world. Oh yeah,
I still stand where I believe Twisted Tea needs to do a partnership with Hitman 3 and have that be like an exclusive Target thing.
Anyway, people can read your wonderful Hitman 3 review and a ton of other stuff. Please plug away.
Yeah, so you can find all of that at butwhythopodcast.com. I wrote a piece ranking all of Hitman's starter suits in order of attractiveness. And I also wrote extensively about the Dartmoor mission, which includes the murder mystery, and then my review. And I have another game review coming out as well for the Medium. So be on the lookout for that. And you can find me on Twitter I was gonna say my hero. Why am I saying my hero? I have my hero on the brain at Oh My Mithrandir. And then you can follow the site and our community at But Why Tho PC on Twitter, Instagram, and everything else.
So the starter suits, it wouldn't include the Agent 47 dress as Santa Claus, right?
No. So it's weird. So I chose starter suits and then disguises you could get in the game. Or things that you could choose as your starter suits. I essentially just made the rules so that I could just include all the things that I found attractive, if I'm honest.
I do the majority of my suit-only Silent Assassin runs as Santa Claus, and it makes it so much more fun.
That's so good.
All right. That pretty much takes us to the end of the show. To take us out of the show, we like to play a little game around here, and we've never done it with 3 people before. So what we're going to do is a little game called Redacted Games. Been saying that word a lot recently. So what we're going to do is I'm going to read the Metacritic description of a video game, but I'll redact all of the information that could feasibly identify it, and it's up to you two to guess what game Metacritic is talking about in this case. And if needed, we can pull in some additional kind of metadata, but let's see how far we can get. We typically allow like 3 guesses, but I don't know how it works with 2 people, so let's just kind of play it by ear and see how it goes. So anyways, the description of this particular game is Redacted is a redacted-based puzzle/redacted game. The millions of redacted that live in the beautiful redacted don't know that they are in a game or that they are extremely delicious.
That's it?
That's it. I'm sorry.
God. Oh, God. All right. So, Kate, let's workshop this. What do we got? It's a puzzle game, and there's millions of things that potentially are edible in some way.
Yeah. And also, we know that they are delicious, so it can't be a cooking game like Overcooked or something, because you're not the one being eaten and delicious. You're creating something that's delicious.
Something with agency is delicious.
Is this a Pokemon game? That's not my first guess.
No, not a Pokemon.
No, come on.
So there's this indie game, I don't even know if it's on Metacritic, but there's this indie game called Bacon Switch, where essentially you play as these cooks who have to get these buns into ovens that are like sentient and stuff like that. And it's adorable.
You eat an ooblet?
Don't say that.
I don't know.
Don't even pose that question.
Well, you can eat a bug snack, so maybe you could eat an ooblet.
Is it bug snacks?
This would not be bug snacks, or I'll kind of rule out the whole Pokemon-ish genre. I know that there's
collection of
Hollow and ooblets, I think, kind of play with some potentially edible types of creatures, but this is not a creature collecting game.
I think that safely eliminates Viva Pinata as well.
So we both have you both have a couple of guesses out there. Let me give some Metacritic, some meta information, and see if this kind of narrows it down a little bit. So this would be, let's see what would be helpful. Okay, this might be helpful, or it might completely throw us off the trail. This was the #1 best Wii game of 2008. The #8 most discussed Wii game of 2008, and the #3 most shared Wii game of 2008.
Kate, did you have a Wii?
I did, but like we were poor people with a Wii, so we had like Wii Sports.
Yeah, that's what everybody had though.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like all we had. We had that and like Rock
sports
Band.
items are edible?
I know.
The Wii.
What was on the Wii?
Hold on, wait.
I'll say that it's not an exclusive.
Okay. That was going to be my next
But the Wii's
question.
probably the platform it's best known on.
Wow. Okay, from 2008, it's partially a puzzle game, and it was on the Wii.
I am stumped.
Oh my god. Let me just go through some Wii games in my mind.
Because like all the things that I'm thinking of is where you cook food. It's not like sentient food.
The delicious part is it's some interesting kind of like...
Can you reread it again?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say that I was surprised when the deliciousness factored into the description.
Okay. I hope it's not a Resident Evil game.
Redacted is a redacted-based puzzle/redacted game. The millions of redacted that live in the beautiful redacted don't know that they are in a game or that they are extremely delicious.
They don't know that they're in a game or that they're extremely delicious.
Was there a Matrix game on the Wii?
Are the people the delicious thing in that game?
I don't
All
know.
those pills, man.
Man,
those red and blue gel pills do look very delicious.
I know, they are very jewel-like in their
like Mike and Ice.
candy. Yeah. Okay, I think you and I probably one more guess each. I'm trying to think of 2008 Wii.
Do we want some more kind of meta information here?
Yeah, give us one last pass.
Please.
Okay. I'll read a 10 review and a 0 review, and these are user reviews, so
Okay.
do with that what you will. All right. A 10 review says, from time to time, a random game you stumble across impresses you a lot. 65 million and 1 BC, clean Asia, etc. I don't know what any of that means. This is one of them. If you don't buy this game, you are missing out on the best download of 2008, and we wouldn't want that, would we? And a 0 says, dumbest puzzle game ever. Waste of time and money. WTF are you people smoking? I'm insulted. Every minute I play this game, this crap is the same things every smartphone has going on a zillion different times.
Okay.
Oh,
Do you know it?
if it's this, I'm gonna be confused as to I guess it doesn't hurt to guess.
It doesn't hurt to. Well, I think do we each get one additional guess? Because I think I know.
Yeah,
what
I
it
think
is
that's
now.
fair. You can each have one more guess to wrap this up.
And if she guesses it before me, then technically point goes to Kate.
Yeah, you could still guess. You could still guess a wrong thing afterwards. I won't take it against.
Oh, nice.
Is it World of Goo?
It is World of Goo.
Oh,
I don't know where the delicious came from.
That is confusing.
But it has a 94 Metascore and an 8.7 user score, which is higher than I would have expected.
I can't believe would you say it's known for Wii? That's an iPhone game all the way for me, baby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or an
I was pictured
iPad
as being
game,
one
I
of
guess.
those kind of like WiiWare early breakout download hits.
Love
I
World
played
of
it
Goo.
on
That
the
was
computer.
Yeah, I have it on Steam as well.
World of Goo.
Gosh.
World of Goo was really the early bridge constructor, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's physics based and puzzles, and that's my jam.
It's right. The unredacted summary is World of Goo is a physics-based puzzle construction game.
Wow.
The millions of goo balls that live in the beautiful world of goo don't know that they are in a game or that they are extremely delicious.
I'm going to leave my mind in they taste like black licorice, which I don't like, but I could see some people being into that.
I like
that
it.
Sounds, ugh. I do not like black licorice.
Well, good job. That's a successful end to the show. And thank you all for listening. Thank you to our guests for joining in today. And we'll catch you again next week.
Bye.